how do you kill something that technically can't die? That's the question nobody in Poppy Playtime is ready to answer. Because if you really think about it, the prototype isn't just another monster. He doesn't need food, he doesn't need sleep, he doesn't need water, and most importantly, he doesn't age, which means logically, he might be immortal. And today, I'm going to explain exactly why that could be true, and why stopping him might be impossible. It all starts with Elliot Ludwig. After the death of his daughter, Elliot became obsessed with one idea, bringing her back to life. So he began experimenting, and his first real test subject was a boy named Oliver. Elliot didn't just experiment on him, he killed him, and then used his own creation, Poppy Gel, to try something no one had ever done before, bring her back. That experiment became the prototype, and this is where everything changes. Because the prototype wasn't just alive, he was proof that Elliot had succeeded. Death had been beaten. So once Elliot saw that it worked, he took it even further. He used the same perfected formula, combined with the remains of his daughter, and created Poppy. Now think about that for a second. Both the prototype and Poppy were created using the same original, perfected Poppy Gel. Not a weaker version, not a copy, the real formula. And that's the detail most people completely miss. Because after Elliot died, that formula died with him. Playtime Co. tried to continue his work through the Bigger Bodies initiative, led by Harley Sawyer, but they didn't have the original method. They didn't fully understand what Elliot had created. So they started cutting corners. They created characters like Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, Catnap, using a cheaper, unstable version of the process. And that's why those experiments are different. They need to eat, they can starve, they can be injured, and they can die. Their intelligence is also unstable. Over time, many of them become aggressive or completely feral. But the prototype and Poppy, they're completely different. They don't rely on food, they don't weaken over time, and their intelligence is on another level. Just look at the prototype. He doesn't just attack, he manipulates. He controls events from the shadows. He uses other experiments like tools. That's exactly why characters like Catnap see him as a god. Not just because he's powerful, but because he's something they can never become. Perfect. And then there's Poppy. At first, she seems different. Calm, helpful, almost like she's on our side. But if you really pay attention, she's been manipulating us from the very beginning. Every move we make, every door we open, every place we go, it all happens because she tells us to. She lies again and again. And the truth is, we're not escaping the factory because of Poppy. We're stuck here because of her. So now we understand that the prototype and Poppy, they're basically the same. Both created using the original perfected Poppy Gel. Both highly intelligent, both technically immortal. The only real difference, their goals. But that brings us to the biggest question of all. If the prototype really can't die, then how are we supposed to stop it? Because logically, nothing we've seen so far can kill him. Not hunger, not fire, not physical damage. So is he actually unbeatable? Well, not exactly, because in chapter 5, something huge gets revealed. The prototype does have a weakness, a very specific one. It's called the negation compound. This is a special substance created by Playtime co-scientists, specifically designed to counter Poppy Gel. And this changes everything, because here's how it works. Poppy Gel gives constant regeneration. It allows the body to repair itself over and over again, almost infinitely. That's what makes the prototype so dangerous. But the negation compound, it shuts that down completely. It basically turns the Poppy Gel inactive. So in simple words, Poppy Gel equals infinite regeneration. Negation compound equals no regeneration. And without regeneration, the prototype becomes vulnerable. Now, this isn't just a theory. We know Playtime Company scientists studied both Poppy and the prototype for years. We hear it in multiple tapes. They cut them, they damaged them, they tested them again and again, trying to understand how they work, how they were so perfect. But even after all that, they still couldn't recreate the original Poppy Gel. That's why everything after Elliot was inferior. But they did manage to create one thing, a counter, the negation compound, which means this might be the only real way to stop the prototype. But there's a huge problem. How do you inject something into a giant monster like him? You can't just walk up and do it. You would need access. You would need a plan. And most importantly, you might need someone on the inside, maybe another experiment, or someone who understands his body. Someone like Dr. Harley Sawyer. And this is where things get really interesting, because Sawyer isn't just any scientist. He's the one who spent years researching the prototype. He understands him better than anyone else. And we also know something very important. Sawyer and the prototype don't trust each other. In one of the tapes from chapter 3, we hear a conversation between them. The prototype talks about the torture Sawyer put him through.
Do you feel anything?
This question referred to what exactly?
You stick us Feed us. Parrot flesh.
Do you feel it?
Which means their relationship isn't friendly, it's forced. The prototype only kept Sawyer alive after the hour of joy because he's useful, because of his intelligence, because of what he knows. And now think about this. The negation compound formula is most likely stored in the data center, where all of Playtime Company's most important information is kept. And the version of Sawyer we see, he's not even fully human anymore. He's a digital copy, which means access to that formula depends entirely on him. He decides if we get it or if we don't. So, in a way, Sawyer might be the one guarding the only weapon that can stop the prototype. And here's the real question. Will he help us? There's actually a very high chance, yes. And there are two big reasons for that. First, as I said, Sawyer hates the prototype. And second, Sawyer doesn't really have a choice. Because, as I said, he's a digital copy, which means he only exists because the system allows him to. And more importantly, we're the ones who activated him. So if we can activate him, we can also shut him down, which puts him in a very risky position. Helping us might be his only way to survive. But now let's think about something else. What if the negation compound fails? What if it's not enough to stop the prototype? Then there has to be another option, right? And there actually might be, because the prototype we see today is not the same as the one Elliot originally created. Back then, he wasn't this massive, powerful creature. He was just a test subject, a proof of concept, probably something much smaller, something incomplete. But over time, he changed, he evolved, he started collecting different parts, adding them to himself, making himself bigger, stronger, more dangerous, which leads to a very interesting theory. What if the only way to stop him is to take all of that away? To dismantle him completely, break him down piece by piece until there's nothing left but the original weak form. Think about it like this. If all those extra parts are what make him powerful, then removing them should make him harmless, maybe even powerless. But there's a problem, a big one. At the end of chapter 5, the prototype survives a massive blast. And not just survives, his body stays intact. We can see damage, but none of his parts are fully separated, which means something very important. His body isn't just attached, it's fused together, much stronger than we thought. So even if this theory is true, it would require something far more powerful, a much bigger force to actually break him apart. And that makes this plan extremely difficult. So at the end of the day, we're left with two main possibilities. Either we use the negation compound to stop his regeneration, or we somehow dismantle him and strip away everything that makes him powerful. Both options are risky, both options might fail, and both of them are still just theories. So now, I want to ask you, which one do you believe in more? The negation compound theory, or the mechanical dismantling theory? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to go even deeper, click on this next video, because there, I explain which character might return in chapter 6. Trust me, you don't want to miss that.